Head-to-head last night for the first time in their careers, and the stars were out to watch. Patrick Mahomes in the house, and early on, it's Luka on Zion, right in his face.
The first thing I learned about Luka last night, he has great hair like Mike Greenberg.
Oh, yes, great coif.
That's what he usually leads with. And then there's Zion, who clearly struggled in his first ever back-to-backs. Jalen, you could tell the conditioning was a question.
Conditioning definitely is a question. Here's a guy that's 6'8", over 280 pounds. He's played in less than 20 NBA games, didn't have a full training camp. Yes, he's going to have fatigue at this point of the season.
He told his teammates he'd wake up in the second half, though, and that he did. A little bully ball, RJ.
Yeah, look, we could talk about conditioning, but look, he was able to dig a little bit deeper here. And like Jalen says, his conditioning will improve. You have to understand, this is December for him.
Mark Cuban can't believe what he's seeing. Meanwhile, he'll love this. Under a minute to go. Good game. Seth, where are you going to go for a bucket if you're the Mavs and you're down by one? How about Seth Curry in the corner?
How about the no-look pass by Luka, and knowing that Seth Curry, an elite shooter, is sitting there spotting up with corner spacing.
And then New Orleans. Now they're down 3, 10 seconds to go, and Jalen, they get the big three from Nicolo Melli.
There was a big-time out-of-bounds play. Normally you don't get this, especially on the same side, and he was able to square up and knock it down.
So to overtime we go. Zion didn't start the overtime. He would finish it, however, and you'll see him in the lane here. He would finish with 21 points, 6 boards, 3 assists. That one would tie it at 118, but at the end, it was too much Luka.
So for Zion Williamson, it's about bully ball, layups and dunks. For Luka Doncic, it's about skill. Dribble, pass, shooting, and dropping it off to Porzingis.
How about a 30-point triple-double for Luka in the showdown with Zion? And in overtime, the Mavericks take a
Physically,
big one.
I'm feeling fine right now. I think it was just one of those things where, Drew, Lonzo just kind of came to me and was like, are you ready to play? Because if you saw me in the second quarter, I think, I just kind of turned around and looked at Lonzo like, all right, like, I'm awake now because, they just came to me and said, like, it's time for you to wake up.
I think he's fine. We worry about him too freaking much, okay? He's fine. He's 19 years old. He'll be fine.
I'll tell you why I love that reaction from Alvin Gentry, even though it's the wrong mentality to have, is that he's trying to get his team in the playoffs. And he does after they just lost back-to-back nights, a terrible home loss to Minnesota, and now a crusher in overtime on the road against a good team. He does not want to be asked about his 19-year-old's condition.
Absolutely. And the thing that we can't overlook is that he's also trying to coach to keep his job. Anytime you have a young phenom like Zion Williamson, and then all of a sudden Lonzo Ball is making 7 threes in back-to-back games, he's been playing well, but you're not getting closer to your playoff goals, they're not going to look at those players. They're going to start looking at the coach. And he understands that. That's why he has a sense of urgency.
So before we get to Luka quickly and more on Zion, there was something that I just noticed there from Zion talking about Drew and talking about Lonzo getting into him a little bit. It feels like there is some young leadership on that team that is really special as a component to Zion.
Well, yeah, and it's so funny. Once you're in the league 3 or 4 years, like, I know that's not a vet by any league standard, but a rookie will look up to you. A rookie will look up to these guys and has been watching them play for multiple years. And so they're going to look to him and say, hey, we need you to pick it up. We need you to do this. We need you to do that. Are you ready? So I do view that leadership growing, and sometimes it happens just because you're a few years older than the younger player.
In the meantime, Seth, I would like you to take us where you went this morning in our meeting, and the comparison that you are drawing for Luka Doncic, which is about as high a level of praise as could possibly be imagined.
He's got a lot of Larry Bird in him. He's a physical guy with a high basketball IQ, a great feel for the game, could shoot the ball, makes the game easier for other people. I mean, to me, he's a point guard version of Larry Bird. And to me, it's real simple. The way he shoots the ball, the feel for the game, how he sees plays early, how he makes the game easier for other people. But more importantly, just the physicality of his game. He uses his size and his strength to absolutely pulverize guards. Now look, Larry Bird was a forward, but his feel for the game and the way he plays the game, 100%. He's got a lot of Larry Bird in him.
Jalen Bird was 2 inches taller. Doncic at the age of 21 is actually 10 pounds heavier now than Bird was when he played. What do you make of the comparison?
I like the comparison. I've used it as well. And their court awareness. Like, don't underestimate the fact he has 17 rebounds from the point guard spot. And he still is going to get you 10 dimes. And he's not getting you 10, 10, and 10 triple doubles. He gave me 30-point triple doubles. He's a clutch performer. He's making people around him better. And that step back shot right there to the left, he has a signature shot very early in his career.
30, 17, and 10.
Correct.
Those are ungodly numbers. I know we've gotten numb because we've had LeBron James and because we've seen Russell Westbrook do this. But part of the reason why LeBron James is who he is, part of the reason why we gave Russell Westbrook earned an MVP is because those numbers are absurd. And so to be doing it at such a young age, dominating in that fashion, it's impressive.
He's got to be in the MVP conversation.
Oh, Luka gonna have a couple of seasons where he averaged a triple-double. It's gonna happen. He's next.
You know what I like about him, too, is he heard these conversations. Like, we've spent, and so has everyone, the last couple of days talking about Luka versus Zion, first time ever. Which guy would you rather have to start a team with? I had a feeling Zion might hear some of that. I think Luka played like he heard.
But the greatest thing about the league is we put up the strength of schedule for the Pelicans and said that they had the easiest.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Ja Morant in Memphis started to get a lot better playing basketball.
Yeah.
And LeBron showed up against Zion, and Luka showed up against Zion. The league ain't gonna make it easier for him.
Meanwhile, you want something to make you laugh?
Sure.
All right, did you see this? Joel Embiid.
Pelton and Mike Schmitz ranked their top 25 players under the age of 25 based on future potential. Let's take a look at the top three. You see Jason Tatum right there. The 22-year-old averaging 30 points since learning he'd made his first All-Star game back in January. He's also shooting 47%. And this is Zion. He already owns the NBA record for consecutive 20-point games as a teenager. Zion averaging the most paint points by a rookie since that kind of tracking began. And then there's Luka Doncic, the top player on this list of players under 25 based on potential. The Slovenian sensation is on pace to become the youngest player in NBA history to score or assist in 50 points per game in a season. Ben Simmons and Karl Anthony Towns round out the top five, according to our NBA insiders, and both are impressive in their own right. Through his first two seasons, only Oscar Robertson had more triple-doubles than Ben Simmons, and Towns already has the most points through a player's first 5 seasons with Minnesota. So you see this list, Seth, right there. These are the top players under 25 based on potential. What would you change and who would you put in if you're going to make those changes?
Well, I take Ben Simmons out and I put Brandon Ingram in. And that's who I thought coming out of the draft. Look, Ben Simmons is a really good basketball player. But you got to be able to make a shot. Like, if you're going to be a great player in the NBA, please take a shot, let alone make a shot. Yeah, he can defend. He sees the floor. He's a point forward, all those things. Here's the deal. He really hasn't impacted this team in the way that he needs to. And you know what? He's just not that impactful. On the other hand, Brandon Ingram, think about what he's done. 25 points a game, 39% from the three. He's 8th in isolation plays, productivity, points per play in isolations in the NBA. The guy in front of him is a guy named LeBron James. The guy behind him is a guy named Kawhi Leonard. This dude is only getting better. Makes shots, rebounds the ball, sees plays, can play in isolations, and he's going to continue to get better as he gets stronger.
He was drafted right after Simmons.
Yep.
And I remember having these conversations with you. At the time, you were saying you would consider taking Ingram ahead of Simmons.
I thought he was a better long-term prospect than Simmons because you've got to be able to make shots to be a good player in the NBA.
You know, we meant this conversation to be about Luka and Zion, but I think Simmons becomes sort of a lightning rod player because there are the expectations. He was supposed to be the next LeBron.
Yes, he
and
was.
his total inability on the offensive end to do anything outside of try and score from inside the painted area is a major limitation.
It is a major limitation, but I'm going to still say this. If I'm starting a team today, I'm going to take Ben Simmons over Brandon Ingram. One, because he does things on the defensive end. He is a first-team all-defensive player. Then you combine the fact that he gets everyone involved. He's the type of player that you would want to play with. I wouldn't even consider him LeBron James. I would say he's more of a 6'9" Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd almost won the MVP shooting 39% from the field because he would rebound, he would defend, he would get everybody else involved. And so to me, that's where I would keep Ben Simmons right there. I love Brandon Ingram, but I'm not picking Brandon Ingram if I need to start a team and build around him. I'm still taking Ben Simmons for now. I think Brandon Ingram in a year or two, it's a different statement.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, let's talk
the deal.
about playoff basketball. What's happened in the playoffs when the Sixers have gotten to the playoffs? What do? They guard Ben Simmons with a power forward, gap him, keep him in front, take away driving lanes, and then get him off the glass.
Do you know who I haven't seen in the postseason?
Here's the deal.
Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, because he's been on a young, bad team. All of a sudden now you see a team that's competing for a playoff spot because Brandon Ingram became an all-star.
Agreed.
He is emerging, and you said in a couple of years, well, we're talking about players that are under 21. Who would you want on your team long term? I want a dude that can make shots, make plays, play in isolation, shoot the three. Oh, and by the way, has a really good feel for the game. Ben Simmons has a great feel. He is a liability because of his inability to make shots. He guards himself.
So sometimes the narrative on these things is also framed by the expectations.
Yeah.
The expectations on Simmons were enormous. They were Zion level. They were LeBron level, and he has not been that.
He has not, and I agree with everything that you guys are saying. His inability to score, to work on his jump shot, to actually shoot jump
it.
shot. That is something that has been frustrating. You can see there's issues with him and the way they're playing, but I don't know. I'm still taking him and what he does on the defensive end.
Especially